Estonkon. Sorry for that delay. I was having to get this over here and ready. There we go. Oh, that's not what I'm going to do. There we go. Okay. Estonkon. Mvhayv Hondois today. So I'm your Mystery Mvhayv for your last one for this round. And so last week we talked about present tense and we only focused on action verbs. So this week I wanted to focus on stative verbs. So we're going to focus on stative verbs in the present tense, kind of like we did last time. So first off, kind of reviewing what we talked about, what is in fact present tense. So last class we discussed present tense is for action verbs, or it's when you're doing something in the now or habits or facts, right? That first part I have right under here. I wonder if it's green, it's going to show up. I'm going to try, let's go with white. Right? So present tense, things happening now, habits or facts. So I am drinking water. A turtle is slow, or I run on Tuesdays. Action verbs, right, we talked about are, in Mvskoke at least, things that you physically or mentally do and generally control. You don't always control them, but a good rule of thumb for Mvskoke is it's things that you're gonna have control over. Stative verbs, however, which is what we're gonna talk about today, are in Mvskoke, they describe a state that you are in or that you experience. So often it's something that you don't control. Not always, it depends on your thought process on how you control things, but this is a good rule of thumb for Mvskoke. It's things that you don't control. That's why they're called stative verbs. They're states that we experience. So let's kind of look at what that actually means, right? So what exactly are stative verbs? Often in Mvskoke or in English, we would consider these adjectives, right? So things like happy is a state that you are in. Scared is a state you are in. Soft, blue. So a lot of times these are what we call adjectives in English. So when we talk about them, a lot of times I'll still use the word adjective, but we have to remember it is a verb because they conjugate. So what do they look like? Afachki, for example, to be happy. Inoki, to be sick. Jabaki, to be angry. Or abwidida, to dream. So a lot of the time, they're going to end on this E. E. Afachki. And it's a long E. A long E. Afachki. Inoki. Jabaki. That's a good common indicator on whether this is going to be a stative verb or not. However, we have things like abwidida, where that isn't the case, right? It ends in the ida, like you see for those action verbs, right? Hombida, iskida, likida. But the difference here, right? To dream, we're not, I mean, unless you're lucid dreaming, you're not controlling your dream, right? You're experiencing it. It's something that is happening to you. It's a state that you're in. So we use abwidida as a stative verb. Any questions on this before we start getting into like actually how they start working? Any clear ups I need to do on what a stative verb is? I don't hear anything, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward. Okay. So once again, like we did for the present tense for action, I want to look at the pattern. Let's see if we can find the pattern. I think that's the easiest way to talk about how these work, how they conjugate. So I'm going to change my color. Let's see. How about blue? Something else on here is blue, like that. Okay. So our first word, afachki. Afachki. Afachki means what? Does anyone in the room know what afachki means? I'll know the page. Happy. Machi, happy. Afachki, happy. So we're talking about the I form, right? I am happy. So this beginning part is a jaw, or udge. Our root is afudge. Our root end is E, that keeps popping up, E. And our statement, the piece that shows us a statement, is the s again. Remember, like last time, it was home, home base. So udge, afudge, E, s. And all together, it creates a jafudge geese. So I say, you say, udge.
Udge.
Hadam, udge.
Udge.
Afudge.
Afudge.
Hadam, afudge.
Afudge.
E. But G. Okay, so all together. Jafudge geese.
Afudge geese.
Ajafaskis.
But G. Hadam, jafudge geese.
Ajafaskis.
Hadam, jafudge geese.
Ajafaskis.
Afudge geese.
But G. Okay, our next word is fiknoki. Fiknoki means what?
Something sick.
Sad.
Sad. It's sad. Your heart is sick, so you're sad.
Oh yeah.
Sad. Okay, so our patient marker, our first piece, ja. Right, that's going to be the I part. Ja. Fiknok.
Nook.
Our E, and we end with our S. But G, so hadam, ja.
Ja.
Fiknok.
Nook.
E. Okay, all together, ready? Ja fiknokis. Hadam, ja fiknokis. But G, ja fiknokis. But G. Next we have is jabaki. Jabaki nagidawa.
It's mad, angry, puffed up.
Yep.
But it means something specific when we're talking about people.
Mad.
Mut G. Mad. Jabaki is mad. You're angry. Mad. Jabaki. So our first piece is ja.
Ja.
Our root is jabak.
Jabak.
Fuck.
We have our E for our end and our S for our statement. So east.
East.
Mut G. So hadam. Magayo magas. Ja. Jabak. Jeez.
East.
Okay, so ready. Jabakis.
Jabakis.
Adam. Jabakis.
Jabakis.
G. Jabakis.
Jabakis.
G. Now, this has two ja's next to each other, so you will catch sometimes there will be speakers that will drop that first ja, but the full form is jabakis. Okay, next we have is abuijada. Abuijada was on the last page. What did it mean?
To dream.
What G? To dream. So our first piece is ja.
Ja.
And then our root is buij.
Voyage.
And then we have our last piece, east. What G? So hadam. Jabuijis. Hadam. Jabuijis. G. Jabuijis.
Jabuijis.
Ajabuijis.
G. And last but not least on here, we have Iliski. Iliski. Iliski means what?
Drink.
Iliski.
Drunk.
Dead.
It means
Crying or
pouty or sulky.
so.
Sulky, pouty, like you're throwing a little fit. Sulky, pouty. Iliski. So our first part is jaw.
Aja.
Oja.
Yeah.
Oja. Oja.
G. And then we have lisk.
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 East.
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 G. Ajaliskis.
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 G. Ajaliskis.
Ajaliskis.
G. Okay, so we've kind of looked at this I am. So, right, that was I am happy. I am sad. I am mad. I am dreaming. I am pouty. Right? So, from looking at this, what do we think the pattern kind of seems to be? Just your guesses.
Like the E long E ending is the stative verbs.
Yes. So this is something that is steadfast. It's staying in all of them, right? They're all ending in east. But G. Which part seems to show the I part?
The
Creepy face.
first
But G. This is the part that shows the I am, the I part. Now, we have different versions versus last time, right? Every time was the same. It was always A or it or E. This time, it changes a little bit. So let's kind of see what is happening. So this one, let's ignore the A. It should be just udge. That's my bad. And so, if we're looking at the fronts, we have an A, a F, a G, and this one actually is an and this one is an E. It's a long E. E.
Liski.
Yes. So what's happening? Well, if it starts with a consonant, right? So a consonant is anything that's not a vowel. So a vowel will be like A, E, I, A, O, U, Those are vowels. So if it doesn't start with that, like in Fitnoki or in Jabaki, we add ja. Ja.
Jabagi.
Jabakis. Jafitnokis. Ja. If it starts with a V, or sorry, let's actually go down to E. If it starts with a long E, liski, E, it becomes a ja. A ja. With that long ah. If it starts with more or less any other vowel, ah or becomes udge, udja, udge. And think about why, right? So you've heard that ja before, right? We've heard that said. We said it yesterday when Miss Gracie had her class, right? Janokidos, I'm sick. So we heard that already. So this ja, when you put it next to a vowel, it's really hard to say ja fudgki. It doesn't feel good. Ja fudgki or jailiski. That doesn't feel good. So you switch these two places. Now there's a consonant in between. A ja fudgki, a jaliskis, a jabuichis. Does that kind of make sense? It makes it a little easier to visualize why is that happening. Because two vowels next to each other, a plus a doesn't feel good. A plus e doesn't feel good. But if we switch it, and now there's a consonant in between, that feels better. Ja, ja, ja. That feels better. So on that note, trying to get rid of them. The E, because that's a long E. E, it has to have this long version of the V, right? We talk about how when elongated becomes, oops. When becomes elongated, it becomes E. And how when it becomes elongated, it becomes ah. We talked about that with one of the verbs last week, and I'm trying to remember which verb it was. Oh yes, iskida, that was it. So iskida, when you use it, becomes e-skase. So becomes ah. And an example of that right now off the top of my head is ayida, to go. When you use it in a sentence in present tense, it becomes ah yes, ah yes. So since this E is long, the afterwards has to be long. So it would otherwise be aja, but it needs to be long. Ja, this case, ja, ja. Versus these other ones are to keep that shorter sound, udge plus blank. So it's ja fudge. So magayo magaks. Ja fudge.
Fudgekis.
Japatskis.
Ja fiknokis.
Japinokis.
Japitnokis.
Ja buckis.
Japatskis.
Ja buijis.
Japitnokis.
Ja liskis.
Ajaliskis.
Much G. Okay. I'm going to do the next form and then I'll ask questions, because if we see another form, it might help this kind of make some sense too. Because then we'll see the pattern again with a different concept. Okay, so here's for you, right? You.
Mahaya,
Mhm.
that fourth one, Haram Marisa.
Awujida.
Okay, Haram.
Awujida.
Okay, I'm hearing it now. Okay, Mado.
Nga. What G? So for you, so that you are happy, you are sad. So let's look at how they change. So we have our first one. We have afajki again. Now it's each. So magayo, magaks, each,
Each.
each,
Each.
afaj,
Fudge.
e, like e. So each, afaj, east, maji. So all together, each afaj geese. Maji haram, each afaj geese. Maji, each afaj geese. Maji. So then fiknoki. Fiknoki is G, G, Fiknok, Fiknok, East, G, so G, Fiknokis. Haram, G, Fiknokis. G, Fiknokis. G. Next, then we have is Mad Jabaki. So our first one is G, Jabak, East. So G, Jabakis. Haram, G, Jabakis. G, Jabakis. G. Next is Awujida. Awujida, that was to dream. So this one can be EG or each, depending on kind of like your dialect and if you're dropping it. So remember, this would start usually with a V, right? So EJ Ouija's or EG Ouija's. So we have, let's use, which one do you usually use? EJ Ouija's. Let's use that one then. Let's use each. So I say you say each.
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 Adam each.
Each.
Ouij.
Weed.
Ouij.
Weed.
East.
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 Ouija's.
Each.
EJ Ouija's.
Ouija's.
Okay, so we said this one, EJ Ouija's. Where we kept the V in there, EJ Ouija's. But G. And then last but not least, we have Eliski, right? That long E. So this one takes EG, and some dialects drop off that first E and it becomes just G. So EG, I say you say EG,
EG.
now EG, Lisk,
List.
East.
Lisk,
List.
Lisk.
East.
East. So we have EG Liskis,
EG.
Adam EG Liskis,
EG.
East.
EG Liskis, EG Liskis.
EG listens.
G. So we see this pattern again, right? We've all probably have seen or heard of this G, right? G. Ginokis, I'm sick, or you're sick. Ginokis, right? G. Well, if I try to do E plus A, E plus B, E plus another E, it doesn't sound right? So if I say Giafachkis, doesn't sound great. Giawijis doesn't sound great. Giliskis doesn't feel great either. So we switch the two around. So it becomes each. And then we have to keep the strong sound for the E because this is a long E. So it becomes EG. EG. And then dialectal is what causes that E to drop, that first E. But EG. So that's kind of the pattern. I know it's not a simple pattern, but that's kind of how it works. So I'm hoping it's kind of easier to see it after kind of doing a few rounds. Any questions on the pattern, or you're still confused on when something's changing, anything like that? There's no questions. I'm going to go to the next form. We've gotten through I, we've gotten through you. Next is he, she, it, right? That third person. He, she, it. So right off the bat, right off the bat, what do we what do we notice in the patient marker section?
Nothing.
There's nothing. He, she, it is the easiest form. This is probably the form you've heard the most. You add absolutely nothing, and it will mean someone who's outside this conversation. So, afbudgi, just the base word, afbudgi, you add your final S, now you have a full sentence. Afbudgis.
Afachkis.
Adam afbudgis.
Afachkis.
And so that means that she is happy, or he is happy, or someone over, somewhere not in this conversation. Someone else is happy, right? Afbudgis. Same thing, right? Fiknokis, so we just keep it. So fiknokis. Fiknokis.
Nokis.
Mahunan wa fiknokidos. Mahunan wa fiknoki. So that man is sad. Jabaki, mad. So don't add anything. Jabakis.
Jabakis.
Adam jabakis. G. Abwijida. We don't add anything. Abwijis.
Abwijis.
Abwijis. Machi. And iliski, we don't add anything. So iliskis
Iliskis.
Iliskis.
or iliskis, depends on the time period you're talking about, but I'm not going into that right now. So iliskis.
Iliskis.
Machi and liskies. Machi. So this form is the easiest. You don't add anything. This is the form that you usually hear first. Your first time hearing it is this form. So makes that nice and easy. He, she, it. You just use the base verb. Nice and simple. So next we have is we. Our we form. So we are happy. We are sad. Right? So we, our first one with the fudge key is ibo.
Ibo.
Evil.
Evil.
Oh, is that long sound. Ibo.
Ibo.
Evil.
G. And then as you may have noticed, the drops. So now the root is fudge.
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 And then we have our final ease.
East.
Yes.
G. So once again, our first piece is ibo,
Evil.
Ibo.
Evil.
fudge,
Fudge.
Fudge.
ease.
East.
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 Putting it all together. Ibo fudge.
Ibo.
Evil.
Fudge.
Fudge keys.
Machi, hadam ibo fudge keys.
Ibo.
Evil
Fudge.
fudge keys.
Machi, ibo fudge keys. And that's gonna be the we are happy. We are happy. Piknoki. Starting with that F, Piknoki is boo.
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 Machi, hadam boo.
Bo.
Piknok is our root.
Big no.
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 Ease.
East.
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 So putting it together. Boo, Piknokis.
Boo.
No. East.
Boo, Piknokis.
Boo.
No.
No.
Machi, boo, Piknokis. We are sad.
East.
We are sad. Next is Jabaki. So it's boo again.
We are mad.
Boo.
Boo.
Hadam boo.
Boo.
And then our root is Jabak.
Jabak.
Ba.
East.
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 So putting them together becomes boo, Jabakis.
Who.
Jabakis.
Jabakis.
Machi, hadam boo, Jabakis.
Jabakis.
Machi, boo, Jabakis. We're mad. Boo, Jabakis. Awijida, starting with that V, right? That vowel. Ibu,
Ibu.
Evil.
Ibu.
Evil.
Ibu.
Now notice the difference. Ready? Listen. Ibu, 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 Ibu. Kind of hear it? Right? This one's shorter and this one's much longer. So Ibu,
Ibu.
Evil.
Evil.
Ibu.
Which.
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 for this one, that V is completely gone. And then east.
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 G. So Ibu Buijis.
Wages.
Ibu Buijis.
Evil.
Evil wages.
G.
Wages.
G. Okay, and our last one, Iliski, right? That long E. Iliski. So it's Ibu.
Ibu.
Evil.
Ibu.
Ibo.
Evil.
Lesk.
Lisk.
West.
East.
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 Ibu Liskis.
Evil.
Ibu. East.
G. Hadam. Ibu Liskis.
Ibu.
Liskis. G. So once again, right? If we think of boo is the one we've heard, right? Boo. That's our base look. So boo, Fiknoki, boo, Jabaki. That's fine. But if I try to say a U plus an ah, Buafachkis doesn't feel good, right? Buijida doesn't feel good. And Uiliskis. Technically, then it becomes ui, not ui, becomes ui, which is a different sound. So to fix this, they switch places. But ub isn't a sound in Mvskoke. So instead, if we need this, we need something to break it up. It becomes e. So eb is a sound in Mvskoke. And then we add either u or o, depending on if the vowel is a strong vowel or a weak vowel. So basically, a strong vowel is a vowel that is, let's do it the other way. A weak vowel is the one that may change form when we elongate, for example. So let's do the weak versus the strong. Is that blue here? Let me change it to something that might be easier to see. Let's do white. So the weak vowels versus the strong vowels. So weak, because it elongates to right? So the weak is the strong is I is the weak vowel. It elongates to e. This is the weird one because these don't elongate, but this is, you have to know. U is the weak vowel and O is the strong vowel. This is partially because these strong vowels are vowels that can be elongated for things. A good example being Borzi versus Borzi. Both are spelled with an O. Now some dialects do use the U to show the length difference. But for example, I write them both with an O. So the short sound, which is why some people use the U here, is Iborzi. Iborzi, and that's grandmother. Versus Borzi, where that O is really elongated. Borzi, that's cat. So you gotta be careful. You don't want to call your grandmother a cat, and you don't want to refer to your cat as your grandmother. So Borzi versus Iborzi. So E and O can be elongated. Fudgekis, liskis, Borzi. Versus you don't really do that with and U. Borzi doesn't sound right. And like no PGs doesn't really sound quite right. So it doesn't do that elongation. So that's how we decide which of these, here we go, endings we're going to use. So fudgeki is a strong vowel. So we need to use bo, a strong vowel. Buijida is not a strong vowel. So we use u because it's not a strong vowel. We have to keep that strong E vowel. So it's O. And that's how these kind of change forms. So stative verbs aren't very simple compared to, say, our other ones that we did last week. But they're important to be able to express yourself. And they get easier over time. Like I said, with this part, your body will your tongue will tell you that doesn't feel right. Buafachki doesn't sound right. So you're gonna know that something's wrong. Fudgekis. It kind of swishes, right? So another way to remember these. Let's kind of go how we can remember these. Let's use what color? How about a purple? Is that seeable? Not very. How about this one? Ooh, okay, I'm gonna do white. Let's do white. I know that'll show up. Okay, so a way to remember. So we have ani, which means me or I. We have Jimmy, which means you. We have Imi, which means he, she, it. And we have Bumi, which means we. These are the personal pronouns. In Mvskoke, we don't use them very often because we don't need to, right? If I say home base, you already know I'm drinking it versus home bitchkis. But we do use these when we want to emphasize like also, like aniu, I am also. home base, a new home base. I'm also drinking, right? So a way to kind of remember is these sounds come from these base forms. Ja, and udge, right? Ani, ja, udge. Jimmy, G, and each. Jimmy. Immy. This is, if you've noticed, almost all of them have this me. This is just a placeholder, right? So just like how is a placeholder, we don't add anything. It adds nothing. So nothing. And then boo, the part that we add to show the we part, boo. So boo and able. Boo and able. Yes, Emmy can be used for them. It kind of, honestly, we don't generally use them. It's kind of the easiest way to really think about it. We just straight up don't use these very often. It's very specific situations. But yes, it could be for them. So we're going to kind of go over how do multiples work in a second. Like we already talked about we, but how about I talk about you all or they? Well, we're going to talk about that in 2 seconds. But until then, I wanted to ask if there's any questions real quick to kind of clear up any thoughts before we add more.
Could you go back to that screen just before this one?
This one?
No, where you were writing on it.
Oh. Well, I have to write it again. Okay.
I just need to see the last two.
Oh, okay. Well, here, I'm already this far. I'm gonna go ahead real fast.
Amy?
Nope. There you go.
Oh, Amy didn't have any, did it?
Nope, it had none.
Okay. Bomi?
There we go.
Maro?
Inga, any other questions?
Max.
Machi Mado. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and the screen is that gonna be okay? Mado. Okay. Okay. So for multiples, how do we start expressing multiples? Here we go. I'll use red. Okay. So we use the same beginnings. That doesn't change, right? That's the udge and ja, the eej and g, right? Those do not change. What we do is we use the multiple form of the verb, right? So for some of these, that means we just add the uk. Afachki, we add that uk. That's why the e is separate from the root. It's up, not exactly part of that root. It's an ending of that root. So afachkagi. Afachkagi becomes multiple people happy. Afachkagi. Afachkagi. I remember that happened with, say, hombida, right? Hombida became hombugida. Now, to be fair, we didn't see the ida on there. We took that off. But we said home base and home bug. Let's see, hombogus. So that becomes an because of the elongation. So hombogus, right? So we see that, we saw it. So that some of them take the same concept. Afajgi, you add that uk in between the root and the root ending. So afajgagi. Piknoki, you add that uk. Oh, should be like this. I was typing really fast. So it should be fiknokagi. Fiknokagi. Fiknokagi with that uk. And then I'm gonna go head down to iliski because it follows that same pattern. And you add that up. Iliskagi. Iliskagi. And then just like we found out in action verbs, active verbs, right? Some have a different form for multiples. So one of the examples we had was legida, was for one person to sit. But 2 people was gagida. And 3 people was abogida. So the verb changed for the amounts of people, right? 1, 2, and 3 or more. So similarly, some stative verbs have a different form. So jabaki, for example, is one of these verbs. It's jabaki, and then when it's multiple people, it becomes jabakhogi. Jabakhogi. Jabakhogi.
Jawakogi.
Jabakhogi. Another one. So I have 3 down here that are common verbs that we see that have these separate forms. So luwagi. Luwagi. Anyone know what luwagi means? She talked about it yesterday.
Slow or something.
Weak.
Weak, right? She
Limber.
talked about it during the health one. Luwagi, weak. Luwagi. So multiple people that are weak. Lowalogi.
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 Walugi.
Lowalogi. Mahi. What does mahi mean?
Much. Or tall.
Tall. It means tall. Mahi. Tall. Mahi. So when we want to say multiple people are tall, it's mahmayi.
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 Mahi.
To say.
Huh? Hold on. I thought somebody asked me questions. Mahmayi. Now that hidden H in some dialects, like I believe I was hearing it yesterday in Miss Gracine's dialect, this might become a K. Mahmayi. She was doing that with what was that word? I'm now going to think of tall. It's the word for dizzy. I can't think of it now, but her dialect switches out that H with a K sometimes. So you might hear mahmayi instead of mahmayi. And then gojokni. Gojokni means what? If this is mahi, this is so mahi.
Short.
Short, matji, short, gojokni. Gojokni. So gojokni is for one. When it become multiple, it's gojonjogi.
Jogi.
Thank you.
Jogi.
Gojonjogi, matji, yeah. Gojonjogi. So a common group of adjectives that do this, which are stated verbs, right, are colors. A lot of the colors have a special form. So if you ever want to talk about, say you have a bunch of cats and you want to talk about how they're all black, you need to know the word for multiple black. Or if you want to talk about your hair, you actually have to use the multiple version because we're saying your strands of hair are brown or your strands of hair are black. Your strands of hair are yellow. So you have to use the multiple version, right? So, for example, I have a bunch of cats, but 2 cats do have black in them. So black is lusty. So if I want to say I have 2 black cats, I have to use slutty. Slutty is the form for multiple black. So I'd say bozi la slutty hokolen ojes. Bozi la slutty hokolen ojes. I have 2 black cats. So a common one is colors. That's a very common one to find them. If you don't know if one has a special form, if you look up in a dictionary, it'll always say like also see blank, or it might say 2 doing this thing. So if you look up legida, you'll see gagida and abogida in the same area. It'll be like 2 to sit, 3 to sit. and you can look them up separately. So that way, you know, in the future, if you ever learn, say you learned a fudgeki and you don't know if a fudgeki has a special form, just look in the dictionary. If it doesn't say anything, it's probably just a fudgeki with that ugh. With that ugh. So let's try this out. Let's try this out. We're gonna go back here. I made some space for us. So we talked about a fudgeki. Hopefully you wrote it down to get it from you, a fudgeki. If the front stays the same and we just end the ending, right? So if I want to say y'all are happy, I need to add the you form for the person and then multiple of the verb. So for a fudgeki, what was the you form? What G? So each. Because it's gonna be each off fudgeki. Each. So then we add our fudge. Now we need to add our multiple, right? Because this one doesn't have a special form. What do we add? Uck. And then what do we end? There's two pieces we always end. We end with the root stem and the statement.
East.
East. What G? So it's E. Oops. I forgot my ah right here. E jaw. That's my bad. So it's E jaw fudgeki. So piece by piece. Each.
Each.
Ah fudge.
Ah, fudge.
Ugh.
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 East.
East.
E jaw fudge geese.
Geese.
What? G. Hold on. E jaw fudge geese. What? G. Killing it. Okay. Let's do. How about? I'm trying to think of. Let's do. Oh, that's a mean one. I forgot to show you guys how to do those. Okay, I'll wait to do that for a second. Sorry. I just realized that. Let's do fiknoki. Fiknoki. Okay, so what form of you do we put in front of fiknoki? If I want to say y'all are sad.
G.
G, what G? G. A good rule of thumb. Test out the G, John, Boo. If it doesn't sound great, it's probably the other one then. So G, fiknoki, that feels good. So G. Our root stays the same. Beak. Nope.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have a special form, so we add what for multiple?
A geese.
What G? Up and then geese, a geese. So all together, it's G.
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 Nope.
Big no.
Nope.
Geese.
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 Just feet. Nope. Geese.
Cookies.
G. Feet. No cookies.
Cookies.
I know we gotta do that one again. Just feet. Nope. Geese.
Just feet. No cookies.
What G? Just feet. Nope. Geese.
Just feet. No cookies.
What G? Now we're gonna get into one of the ones that changes forms. So Jabaki. Jabaki. I want to say that they're men. Right? What do we add in the front for they? It's the same as he, she, and it.
Nothing.
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 Right? Because let's think about this. If I say you or I, we're part of the conversation. Or we're part of the conversation. He, she, it, they're outside of our conversation, right? They're somewhere else. He, she, it. They is the same. They're outside of our conversation, right? They're not in our little bubble. So they takes the same beginning as he, she, and it. So it takes no beginning, so nothing. So then we just start with our verb. Now Jabaki changes for multiple. What's the multiple for Jabaki?
Jabakogi.
Geese.
Jabakogi. Jabakogi. And then we add our S on the end. So full, piece by piece. Jabakogi.
Geese.
Bakogi.
So Jabakogis.
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 So Tad asked if that's because of the double K. Not necessarily. Sometimes it's just the verb changes. So because if you look at the other one, Piknoki, it's got that double K and it doesn't change anything. Right? So it's just the verb. It's just, language how it is. Let's do Lawagi. That was weak. Lawagi. So you're in a competition, you beat everybody, and we go, y'all are weak, right? So you need to say the U form first. So what form goes in front based off what sounds right? See if you can hear it. So what will go in front for you?
G.
G.
G. So then we have our verb form. Does Lawagi change?
Yes.
Yes. Anybody by chance remember what it changed to?
Loalogis.
What? G. Lo, wa, lo, e. And then we add our S on the end. So let's do the three pieces together. So G.
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 Lo, wa, lo.
Lo.
East.
Geese.
And
Logis.
to the east because it feels better than lo, wa, lo, east. So all together. G, lo, wa, lo, geese.
G. Loa.
G.
Lo. Geese.
G head up. G, lo, wa, lo, geese.
G. Loa.
G.
Lo.
Loalogis.
Nice. Now you can smack talk in Muskogee. G, lo, wa, lo, geese.
Right on.
Chilala geese.
Ilola Logis.
Yes, and you'll notice
Loalogis.
the multiple forms when they change for adjectives, a lot of times they get harder to say, right? Lusty, lust slutty, lowagi, lowalogi. What was the other one on the other page? It was godokni, gojonjogi. They become tongue twisters. It's actually a really cool thing. There's a word for it. Yes, so there's a word for it. I can't think of what it is, but if you ever have the grammar book by Jack Martin, he actually does name what that system is. It's
like poetry onomatopoeia. It's
Yeah,
like that sort of thing.
it's like, yeah. And kind of like what I think it was Tad said, reduplication is something like that. It's not perfect reduplication, but it's really cool. And he gives a whole bunch of examples of verbs that do it, which makes it visually very appealing. Okay, so I do want to cover something that it hit me real quick that I had missed. And I was in a rush. So it's like, oh yeah, I always include one of these verbs. Anybody know the word for hungry?
Ilawi.
Hungry.
Oh.
Alawi, Eli, Salari.
That's I'm hungry. So Ilawi is just hungry, but you're correct. That means I'm hungry. So Ilawi. So exactly, actually, I want to touch on briefly what Galani Ella said just now is what I'm trying to allude to. So Ilawi versus Eliski. Eliski is a long E. So when I do things, I can't ignore this long E. So I am pouty. Can't say ja Eliski. It becomes the E, or sorry, not Ej. The Ajaliskis. So because I am pouty. However, Ilawi is a short E. It's the weak E. So what we do in any of these stative verbs that start with a weak E, we actually get rid of it. And then we conjugate as if this is the front. So without that E, if it was just low E, what would we put in the front? Exactly, what G? Ja. Right? Because if that E had to be there, then ja Ilawi doesn't sound good. But that E that's short, it gets thrown away. So it becomes Jalawi. Jalawi. So Jalowis. I'm hungry. Jalowis. Now, is there a way to like game the system and know when it's a long E versus a short E. No, you just have to learn them. Now you can hear them, ilowi, iliski, you can hear it, but there's no way to look at the word and just know. So common ones that follow this. Common ones are ilowi, right? That's to be hungry. The other super common one, when you're starting out, is iwanki, which means to be thirsty. Iwanki, thirsty. Iwanki. So instead of jalowis, that's not right. It's jalowis, right? We get rid of that E, add the ja. So jalowis. Get rid of that E. Jawankis. Jawankis. So you do have to pay attention on if it's a short E or a long E. So that was something I realized that I had forgotten to mention. You do keep the E for he, she, or it. Matji. Good. Yes. Good question. So because the verb is ilowi, if I want to say that Mahaya Grisin is hungry, I would say ilowis. I keep this E on here. I keep this E on here. Because remember, we don't touch it. Basically, you just don't touch the verb if it's for someone else. Matji. Okay. And then I'm gonna see. Oops, it may do that. I think it's at the end. So good. Oh, on top for the timing. Perfect. So if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask. Real quick before we kind of get into questions, I want to kind of explain the course, the Zoom classes in the future. So school is about to start. We have some schools starting next week, and we have some schools starting the week after, and then there's a few schools starting the week after that. So since all of our teachers are having to make sure that they're ready and their schedules are figured out, this is the last class for this round. Usually there's only a week break. We're probably gonna have to take a 2-week break just so that we're all set for the school year, making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. So we're looking at starting back up at the, is it the 3rd or 4th week in August? Basically, we do hope to start again in August, just give us a few different, a few weeks to kind of get the schedule set up for the schools and all that stuff. Especially because we added more schools, which is great. That also means that we have to plan out all the locations and where everything goes. And as far as who will be teaching it, I think it's gonna be another Mystery Mvhayv kind of round. So I think that'll be fun and exciting. And the group that we have, that Facebook group, that's a good way for you to explain on different concepts you might like to learn. So maybe you'd like to learn how to read a recipe. So you would like to learn measurements and cups and teaspoons and ingredients, maybe you'd like to learn that. Or if you work at an office, maybe you'd like to learn some office-based stuff. So that group that we have on Facebook, use that, bring about different things like, it'd be great if we could touch on this. So that's a good open area. What's the Facebook group? If you go to our Facebook Mvskoke Language, I believe it's considered an affiliated group. I believe there is a post and it's called, what is it called? The Mvskoke Language Lessons group. And it's private. You just apply to get in and you'll be let in. The reason it's private is so that we can ask the beginning questions for statistics in order for us to, get our funding that we do and that good stuff. Let me look at up here. Our recordings of previous classes posted anywhere? Yes. So previous classes are on our YouTube. Our YouTube is Mvskoke Language. And because we are preparing for classes starting soon, I think we're a little bit behind on posting them, but I know that she's working on it. We had to change a computer thing, so there was a little bit of delay because of that. They will be up. And then some of the items are already on the Google Drive, whether or not the video's up yet. So you still have access to some of those earlier than the videos. And for a reminder, that Google Drive, that link is on any of the recorded language lessons. You can get to that Google Drive from there. It's always in the description. Going back up so I can make sure I don't miss any. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Somebody put the link to the Facebook group. Yes, it was. And that's part of the reason originally I was going to do past tense today. And I was like, you know what? Actually, we should talk about stative verbs because they did learn a lot of stative verbs yesterday with the medical lesson. So I thought that'd be a good one to do today. Yes, when you
Again, Mahaya, Mado, because when you asked, if we know how to say hungry, and I just automatically told you Chalawi. I already changed it to that CV, but see, I didn't know how to write that. And so again, Mado for helping me learn how to write the word. It's difficult because I can say them, but I can't write them. And so thank you, Mado.
I'm so happy, but gee, and that's the Jalawi. That's a very common thing a lot of speakers find and do too, is that like that they don't realize they're conjugating, right? Because they don't have to think of it that way. You just speak, right? So as a learner, it helps a lot to know, well, why did you say Jilawidi versus Jalois versus Eloise versus Elowagis, right? It's helpful to know that reasoning when you're learning the language. Okay, so since this is the last one for a few weeks, any questions before I head out? This is your last chance. Snooze, you lose.
Mahaya, just could you maybe do like I'm happy about something? I'm happy about school, or I'm
Okay, yes. So I'll do that real quick. I'm not gonna get into the whole how exactly this is working. So Ashki is happy. We add our patient marker. Job, Ashki. Okay. I have to think about which order it is. So let me think of my example sentence I usually think of. Because it's so confusing. I'm thinking of how because I'm scared of say something. So what is
where
the
I'm
word for,
scared of something.
yeah,
Like
what's the word for
say I'm
scared?
scared of cats.
My brain is the word for scared. I can't think of it. It's
Bengali.
Bengali. Thank you. Thank you. Let's do scared. Bengali. So we add our piece. So it's ja Bengalis. So when we want to say we're scared, if there's something that isn't connected but is, so I am happy about, I'm scared of. We have to add I'm trying to remember what the word is the dative. We have to add the dative. So if I want to say I'm scared of cats, I have to say bozi. That's the word for cat. In ja being
Oh, I see. And if I'm scared of you, I'd say Jinja Bengalis.
yes. So this
Jin.
in points to the bozi. So yes, if I want to say I'm scared of you, it becomes jin. You're scared of me becomes jun, or actually becomes unjibing the least. Unjibing the least. You're scared of me. So that's how we do that. If that makes some sense. So the whole grammar reason why I won't go into right now, but that's a good question. And I've already thought about doing a lesson on indirect, how we use the un and stuff, right? You saw yesterday with the some of the medical terms, we had to say un for some of them instead of ja. So I've already thought about kind of doing a lesson on something like that.
Did I get all that right? Typed in.
Yes, Machi.
Maro.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mahaya, I was gonna ask if with the group on Facebook, So it's just for any of us who are following in this class. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's anybody who's participating in our lessons, especially our Zoom lessons. Yeah.
Okay.
Inga. Okay. Mado.
Hadam tehejia di someone. Ia jai jachas.
Hadam Jihi
Ayi
Jaga.
bahanas. Ayi bahanas.
Muchi. Mado, everybody. So with that, go ahead and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I've got to grab my own lunch. So have a good rest of your day, everybody. Mado.
Go, Mahaya.
Peace.
Jihi Jagathis.
Jihi Jaga.